How's everybody doing today? I'm gonna go over, I don't normally do this, but I'm actually gonna go over um my truck because I've got one truck still on the road. And what I'm gonna do is actually show you because you need a real purpose example of what it looks like. Now, the 9,860, this is what I did a week ago, because we're still in the middle of this week. But when I'm showing you this, it goes up and down. It doesn't stay. Some weeks I do worse because it depends on, did the driver have to do a restart? Because my driver stays out 3 weeks at a time before they come home. But obviously, you can see why, because they have everything inside this truck. There's a kitchen, there's a toilet, there's a shower, fold down bunk. I mean, this is, a trucker's kind of dream type of deal to have this type of setup. But anyways, and it has a generator so you can shut it down. I mean, it's, totally double frame. It's got a four-door burner box on the back. I don't know if you can see it, but like this one has a double drop. I mean, it has a drop axle and a wet system on it. And so he's got a 18 speed, a C15 in it with 625 horsepower. So my truck usually gets, give or take, I do 6.7, but it can go up and down depending on the weight of the load and the distance of the load. Now, this was a pretty decent week, easy week, because I was able to get two loads. But remember, I actually deal with broker with dispatch, and so I have the advantage of actually being able to source freight from where I know my truck needs to be, and I don't give the driver a choice. He's got a great truck. I mean, those tires on the front cost like $1,200 a piece. I mean, we're talking about he understands that if he don't want to be in that truck, I can easily put somebody else in it. But this is actually the last truck that I have. So when people will start asking me, and I've had them ask me before, hey, do you have another truck like that to put you can put me in? No, I don't. And I actually expect him to once a month to send me pictures of the condition of my equipment since I'm not there, and he takes it home and all that good stuff. But he's a real truck driver. So, he's sometimes he adds different things onto it. I prove it that he can put it on there. So it makes the penny a little bit shinier, and I'll actually pay for the part because he likes his, cowboy boot wearing trucker. But anyways, for this week right here, this was $9,860 gross revenue. So an average, after figuring it out, is about 325 a mile. There is some additional things that we did get put on there, but I'm not going to include them. I'm going to keep this straightforward. But anyways, the miles on it, basically it was, now when I do 3,032 miles, that's going to be just the load because where I arranged to drop this load at, where we picked it up, where he dropped it at, because he stays in the sequence of where I need him to be at, the deadhead was like less than 30 miles on both ends. And I did that on purpose because it took me a long time to set that up. And now that's what we're sticking to. But, but I end up having different loads every week depending on where we're at. And because all these loads are not consistently every week, it's not like a dedicated account where I'm signed on a contract. Just give them a call. They know that I perform real good, and they know we got good drivers. Well, a good driver, and he's good about. And the other thing good about him, he's real good about dealing with the customers. So he goes in and he talks to them, and and that makes it great for me. So I'm blessed on both ends when it comes to this driver. I hope he never goes nowhere. I've even discussed maybe letting him just buy the truck because it's hard for me. Look, he keeps great condition of it, but sometimes when you own trucks and like small owner operator like myself, then sometimes it's just you look at the possibility because there are stressful days. Stuff does break on my truck because my truck's not brand new, but everything I put on there brand new because I've learned from my history of driving for 24 years, it's just not worth it. But anyway, let's get on to this load. So for $9,860, that was at 325 a mile. I did an average of both directions because one direction actually pays more than the other. My overall fuel efficiency is about 6.7 miles per gallon. So in fuel, I figured it out about $4.10 a gallon average national, and you'll see why because I'm where I ran the freight. Now for the load breakdown, then this is a step deck trailer that we run behind my tractor. So I did from Atlanta, Georgia to Salt Lake City, Utah. That distance, remember, these are averages. This ain't including all the stops, like anything when it comes to um, like getting our route for going to get something to eat. Those add up to miles, but you want to keep that really, you want to keep it under 5% of the overall miles for whatever you've done. So, anyways, distance 1,900 miles average going from Atlanta to Salt Lake City. And that was going to be a machinery load. Now, that load weighed about, give or take, maybe just a hair over 43,000 pounds. So my truck is 36,200 pounds empty. So after we scaled out, that was basically 79,200 pounds. We barely under gross. And when you're going that way, when you're going from Atlanta to Salt Lake, you got the Twin Sisters and stuff like that. There's not a lot of heavy mountain climbing going there and back because we come back where we come back to because we actually go from Salt Lake back to Kansas. But anyways, let's get to the point. So that was machinery, and we took that up, and that was 79,200 pounds. Now, once we got there back to Salt Lake, we went back to Kansas City, Missouri side, and that was 1,132 miles. I don't try to get that precise on the miles, but I was trying to figure this up and make sure so you see it because we do it all the time and don't really worry about all this stuff. But this was graded steel equipment. Now, obviously, he don't shoot me pictures, so I wish I had the pictures. I'd give it to you to let you see what it looked like. Now, that load was heavier. That was actually all the way up to just over 44,500 pounds. So you take my 36,200 pounds and I'm empty, add that 44,500, that put me at 80,700. But I got to remember that I knew he was going to burn some fuel off before he got to the first scale house. I wasn't really worried about it. And remember, I got the drop axle. See that drop axle? There's your key thing. Drop that damn axle when you go across some scales. As long as it don't balance out on the ass end on the trailer, then I'm good. Okay, because that's the whole point behind that drop axle. And we don't even run that drop axle that much, but they're in situations like this, it definitely helps out. And in addition to that drop axle, you got to keep a drop axle up because remember, it's got airbags in there that you let up and down. And mine are actually in my side door. Um, so when we flip open the side door, there's two doors on the side. One's for basically the sewage tank, I guess you want to call it, for the toilet and the sink and the stuff in the side. But then that second door to the lower right behind me, that's going to be where there's a switch that we push in and out to raise that drop axle. But anyways, let's keep moving on. So the total miles on that was 3,032. So here's my overall fixed cost. Basically, it's my truck payment and my trailer payment. My truck payment runs 325 a week. That's what I pay. I pay it by the month, but I just broke it down so you can see what it was by the week so we could do the overall average. The trailer payment's $200 a week. And then obviously that's really it that I've got. So that brings me to about 525 on that. Now my variable cost is a little bit different. So what I got is and so we'll do the fuel cost first. So the total miles was 3,032 in theory at 6.7 miles per gallon. Now, because my truck is not a brand new truck, it doesn't tell me what I'm really getting per mile because, the more miles you got, you can reset it and stuff, but we just kind of know it's 6.7. Like I said, it gets a little bit worse, a little bit better, depending if we're running mountains, whatever we're doing. Now, slower you go, the better fuel mileage it gets. And in theory, if nobody knows, the most profitable fuel mileage that you can get on the truck is like 37 miles per hour. So that's not realistic, right? So anything above basically 35 miles per hour, your fuel mileage goes down. And that's just a theory thing that I watch about fuel efficiency when I was looking at energy and stuff when it comes to logistics and transportation. But anyways, so we take the 3,032, we're going to divide it by our 6.7 miles per gallon. And that means I got to have 452 gallons of fuel to actually to do this whole trip. That's going all the way from Atlanta to Salt Lake City and then Salt Lake City all the way back down to Missouri and Kansas City, Missouri side. So, anyways, so we figured out at $4.10 a gallon times the 452 gallons, which basically puts my fuel cost at $1,853.20. Now, the driver pay for this load, I pay him 32% of the overall truck's gross. That's not after fuel. Some people actually will not pay them until after the fuel settlement. I think that's bullshit. The man did the work. He does a lot for me. So for me, there's no way I would ever do him that way. So I take the 9,806 times the 30%. That gives his pay for this given trip was $3,155. He's 1099, so I don't take no taxes or nothing out of it. And he understands that he's responsible for his tax obligations. Now, weekly expenses. So let's break them down, put them together, and show you how bad it gets. So fuel, $1,853.20. My driver pay is $3,155.20. My fixed cost is $525. Okay, now remember, this is for a week. Don't put this in a month. And then so that overall cost is $533.40 for that truck for this 1 week. Now, net profit before taxes and maintenance. This is before taxes and maintenance, right? So I got $9,860, and I'm taking those costs that we just talked about. So we're talking about our driver, our fuel, and the overall our truck payments. So that's total of $4,325.60. I'm sorry. I'm messing up. See, that's the reason I don't like doing this because I don't do this all the time. But anyways, so that'd be 5,000 um $533 and let's see, hold up, give me a second. Okay, that's gonna be for my fixed cost. Okay, this is my net profit. Okay, so then take $9,860 minus the $5,533. Remember, because that was my total, whatever, and that leaves my overall $4,326.60. That's going to be my net profit on that load. So I took out that was the fuel, the driver, and the fixed cost. That's all that was, right? So remember, I got which thing is I don't understand why I put that in there. But anyways, because remember my fuel's not going to be fixed cost. That's a variable cost for every trip. So anyways, I'm sorry about that. I'm not trying to confuse you. I'm confusing myself actually. But anyways, so on the overall metric of what we looked at, we'll go down through it one more time so that way you can understand. So my total revenue was $9,860. Total miles was 3,032. Average rate per mile was $3.25 per mile. I spent 452 gallons worth of fuel, and my fuel cost was $1,853.20. Now, my fixed cost was $525. That's for just my tractor and my trailer. And then my driver pay was 32%, which is $3,155.20. So my net fixed cost pre-tax is $4,326.60. And the heaviest weight they actually had this week was actually the 80,700 pounds that I had on the truck. Okay, and in addition, I'm going to give you this part because I didn't know I was looking for it and I put it on a different sheet of paper. So my variable cost is going to be I put diff fluid on there because I fill out this chart right, and it's $46. That's what if at 2.5%, right? Diff fluid would be basically $46, but I don't use diff fluid because I don't have a filter on my truck. I got the two stacks right there on the top. See those? And if you go under the bottom, right there by the air tank right there, there's a lever under there. So if I'm pulling a step deck load and I need smoke tarps, I don't have to put smoke tarps on it. I pull that lever and it blows my exhaust out the bottom of my truck, out past the fifth wheel. So that's how I accommodated that particular issue for this truck, because we customized some stuff on this truck to make my life easier. And I learned that from another truck driver. Um, and so that makes this situation better. Now, the other variable cost that I've got is my maintenance. You've got to have a maintenance program. So you got to do at least 15 cents per mile. I would, if you can get away with more, do more, but 15% cents based on the overall maintenance and the care that I give to my truck. This is about what runs right for me. I don't usually have to come out of pocket anything extra. Even when I blew a turbo, on this truck I blew a turbo and I've done a fan clutch. Thank God it didn't get into the radiator. So, but it just, but the fan clutch disengaged. When it did, it tilts forward, and that's the whole thing. When it tilts, everybody worries about hitting those plastic blades and then shearing off and then going into your radiator. But I was lucky that it didn't happen. And, but I did have to get that fan clutch brought in from like a state over, which sucked and cost me extra money. But that's part of doing business. You don't know what the scenario is going to play out to look like until the problem happens. But anyways, the diff fluid, I don't have to have it. So it's really that $46 actually goes back into my net. But my maintenance is 15 cents per mile for this particular trip based on my mileage at $454.80. My tolls and permits was around $100. And then as far as incidentals was like 150. You always got some kind of stuff, whether it's windshield wiper fluid and everything, because I pay for everything that goes for my truck. That is a driver. Yeah, he takes good care of the truck. He loves the truck, but that's just a fair deal, you know. And but anyways, um, the total variable minus the fuel was $750.80. So that has to be added back in basically to your variable. That's not part of your fixed cost, but your variable on the overall expenses for this particular trip. Okay, so everything included, that's my fixed cost, variable cost, everything that it took to run this fuel. And so what I do is I kind of do a variant window because give or take, it depends on what's been in there because there's fuel tickets, I mean scale tickets and all these other little knick-knack stuff, even though I do that in a variant. But overall, I mean, for this trip, I made $3,575. But I probably figure it's probably closer to 3,323. It just depends on what may have been missed because, remember, I'm not there with the truck. Now, the driver's obviously not stealing the money because the money comes to my account. And at the end of the day, the accountant does all the paperwork for this. And, and that's really how it turns out to look like as far as running a trip of this for this value. But is it a good trip? Yeah, we didn't break down. You know what I mean? Not that we break down every trip, but you just got to think about ahead of time. That's your biggest enemy in trucking is number one is tires. Tires is your number one expense when it comes to a truck. But like for example, I have to look at other things. Like I know you can't see it, but out here on the top behind that's an old GPS dome. That's what that really is. I think it was actually for my satellite system and for my direct TV or something like that. But anyways, behind there is an AC unit and heating unit. You got to have it that, and I think it was built by Coleman, had it replaced. That cost. The owning generator, which is on the other side, we have to change the oil on it every 3,000 and something hours. There's all kinds of things that are on a truck like this that you just have to get done because you're living a good quality of life in the aspect of being an over the road truck driver. But you got to get your EMS done every single time it's due. Don't sit there and drag it out even for an extra 1,000 miles. That oil is like the blood in your body. You've got to take care of it, and or otherwise you're going to, stroking out. But anyways, that's the short version of what this looked like for a trip for $9,860. I hope this helps you. I hope it was understandable. If you have questions or something that I may have overlooked, because I usually don't do presentations on my overall truck expenses. I just kind of do them every week and know what they are. Because I don't even go down to the penny. I just know about roughly what we made for that week. And, long as the truck is paying for itself, then I'll keep the truck. But, and like I said, this driver is interested in buying the truck, so we're not sure what we're going to do yet. But that's neither here nor there. But if you want to build a fleet, you got to remember these. If you're working with the owner operator as a freight dispatcher and they want to build a fleet, you got to look at how this actually works. And this is what you need to know when you're actually dealing with that driver. It listed everything. I had my tolls in there, had my variable cost just in my fixed cost, and then the knick-knack stuff in my variable cost. What are those entailing? So make sure that there's no red flags in that to something that could be leading to something else, especially when it comes to maintenance and stuff. So to keep that in mind. And but anyways, I'll kind of leave it at that. But I hope this helped you out. I hope you learned something, and just sitting here spilling something. But anyways, I hope that helped you out and you learned something. But anyways, if you want to be a freight dispatcher, please get with us, truckdrivernation.com. All our contact information is going to be down here below. So take a look at it. And you need to get a hold of us, have a conversation, whatever. That's not a problem. Get a hold of Maria. I'm busier now these days than I can sometimes, wish I was, but that's part of the deal. It's either be proficient at this and be able to help people out being freight dispatchers or go back on the truck. And like I tell people, I love like this truck here. I love this truck. This is a great truck for a truck driver. But thing is, uh, I'm just I'm 54 years old. So it's, at some point you got to come off these trucks. And, people's like, oh, I'll just drive it to the day I die. Yeah, I hear you. I used to say that too until I realized my physical capabilities. If you ever woke up in the morning and you just don't feel good because it's your body telling you something, then you're going to realize that you're going down the road and you're like, I just can't make it. Oh my gosh, why do I feel so lousy? And it goes on for half the day or whatever. And so for you that are actual truck drivers that need to come off the road, this is a great way for you to exit the truck, be able to still travel the world wherever you want to go, and still actually make more money than what I made even though I didn't do the work. I understand, well, you didn't put no money in. Yeah, well, you still have to deal with problems. But anyways, but remember, I dispatch my own truck. So anyways, I hope this helped you out. If you got any questions, concerns, like I said, get them back to us. Contact us through the website, truckdrivernation.com. Where is it? So people can see it. There you go, Truck Driver Nation. Then put the .com, and we'll just start from there. But I appreciate it. Hope everybody has a blessed day. For everybody on the road, please be safe out there, and look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you so much.